Commander Sisko prepares the perfect beets. Constable Odo gets whisking lessons, and Jake Sisko didn't succeed in his keyboard lessons. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Rule. I'm your co-host, Mirror Universe, Ryan T. Husk, along with Jake Sisko himself, Cirroc Lofton.
Oh, wow,
We're here
that's great.
And I am Mirror Mohamed Noor. My name is Ryan T. Husk. I mean, I don't know how to do this anymore. I've already ruined it for you. Dude, before we get started, today we are doing a review of Season 3, Episode 4, Deep Space Nine's Equilibrium, directed by Cliff Bole, teleplay by Renee Echevarria, story by Christopher Teague. Very quickly, before we get into that, Mohamed, that was so close. Those three trivioids that you chose were so close to the three I was going to do.
Really? That's awesome.
So you said Odo gets whisking lessons. I said Odo is the worst stirrer ever. What did you say about Jake's keyboard?
Didn't succeed in his keyboard lessons?
Yeah, and I said Jadzia steals Jake's Casio keyboard. because at the end she stole. I'm like, hey, that's his. And then what was the third one?
The first one was
the redfish.
Perfect Beets.
Perfect Beets.
Perfect Beets. Yeah, I said Bashir hates beets, but Dax loves them.
Wow.
Dude, that's three. You 3 for 3. You literally picked the exact three things that I was going to talk about. Yeah, I guess you don't need me, huh?
No, we need you.
I guess
I'm just trying to emulate you.
That's awesome. This is Mohamed
pretty dead
Noor,
on.
Professor, Dean of Life Sciences at Duke
Natural
University.
Sciences. Yep.
Natural
Okay.
Sciences. That's such a
It's
better
good.
title, too. Sorry about that. Anyway, let's talk about this episode. Shall we?
Please.
Let's do it.
Great. Cirroc, you said you really liked this episode, right?
I thought it was the best episode yet so far.
So far this week?
So far today. Not even this week. Not my favorite episode. I actually was dying to trying to fill up the notes on this one.
You know, it's funny.
I'm going to write down.
I filled up a ton of notes. It's almost like when it's bad, I start taking more notes because I'm like looking for something interesting. I'm like begging. And this wasn't as bad as I thought. I think it's kind of like when you watch it for the first time, you're like, oh, that wasn't a very good episode. But when you watch it for a second or third time and you know it's not a very good episode, then you kind of dive deeper into the details. Kind of like there was the episode where Chief O'Brien gets taken back to Cardassia or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it may not have been the best episode, but at least we got to learn more about Cardassia or Collaborator. Not the best episode, but we get to learn more about Bajor. You know what I mean? So you can kind of sink your teeth into, the lore of the worlds.
World building.
Yeah. I can see that.
That's my excuse. Mohamed, you're saying some pretty interesting things before we hit the record button, right?
Was I?
I don't know. No,
well, one thing I was thinking about, I don't think this is what we were talking about before, but one thing that I actually found it physically disturbing watching Dax be that angry. I was like, what's going on? I was actually getting agitated. Like, what is this? It was interesting that it evoked a reaction. Oh, I remember what you're talking about from the ending. Yeah, we can come back to that later.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that, though, Mom. I do feel like there was somewhere deep inside of me that was so irritated by it. So this is not normal,
right?
Right.
I mean, like when you see your friend and they're like really upset, like, what's wrong?
right. What's wrong? Like, let's talk about it, man. We can fix it. It's not, it's not going to last forever.
Exactly. Especially the chess game too. That was crazy. Like, what is up with her?
Yeah. Because usually she's the rock,
Exactly.
She's the one we can always count on.
Very
she's cool
even
as a
keel.
cucumber. So seeing her ruin a perfectly good chess game. Come on, guys.
And yell at Kira after that too? What?
Yeah.
This is your friend. Why are you yelling?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was really short with Bashir too as well. She shut him up with a real quick quiet. That was snappy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just, her being out of character like that did bother me to a degree, especially with that chess scene. And her accusing Sisko of cheating, I think, bothered me a little bit too.
You stood up and started yelling at the TV, right?
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
Cheating is like, it's such a major accusation.
Yeah.
That you don't just throw it around lightly. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that Curzon really thought that Ben Sisko cheated? Because she made some comment like, well, Curzon always thought you cheated. I wonder if that's true or if that was just.
Oh, that was interesting.
Yeah, I didn't catch that line.
I didn't catch that line either, but she did. But I didn't know if that was Curzon talking. Yeah.
I think it was Jadzia. I think that came out in anger because it seems like Curzon, even though he had a temper, he was the wise old man. And, the wiser you are, the less you're going to misinterpret people. Usually the wiser you are, you're better at kind of judging character, and Sisko's not somebody that would cheat.
Yeah, I've been accused of cheating in that same kind of fashion over a meaningless thing. So, there wasn't even usually you have an incentive to cheat. Like you want to win a Super Bowl, you want to win a championship. Like there's something there. There's money involved.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a chess game with a friend. What the heck? What do you get out?
You don't get anything out. And so when somebody accuses you and you're like, dude, we're not even playing for anything. Like, why would I cheat? That bothers me personally. So yeah, I can understand how that would upset you and how it upset me too, just watching it.
Yeah.
Would you consider a card magic trick to be cheating? Because that's like sleight of hand. I just thinking of that because I was like, I feel like I've cheated in games a bunch of times.
Well, but then
I was like, did I really cheat? Like in certain card games, like there was this game called Grass where you're like trading cards to be like the best drug dealer or whatever. And I would say, and I would say like, oh, I'll trade you this card for that card. They say, okay. And then I have another card under it. And so then when they reach for it, I just slide that one and they grab it. They're like, but it's too late because they've already done the trade.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, is that cheating or is that sleight of hand?
Yeah. I did something like that in a class they used to run. This was many years ago too, where I wanted people to take turns going. So what I did is I had them all put their names in a hat. What I would always do is I put the person who I wanted to go next on top inside the hat, and they'd always pull the top name. Always.
This is 1985 David Stern NBA draft when the New York Knicks won the very first NBA draft. That's what
really
that's the cheating. Yeah.
Oh man,
it's the same kind of thing. Like, hey, I would put all these names in a hat, randomly pick one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even pick. I let other people pick, so it didn't look cheap. But they always pick the top one. Always.
So funny.
Yeah, that's a psychology type trick that you used on them.
Yep.
I'd say that qualifies a little bit differently than Ryan's.
You said my name so aggressively.
Ryan's was actually like kind of a cheat move.
Deception, right?
It was a deception move.
Mohamed was playing the percentages because of what his intention was. He didn't like that's not deliberately cheating. That's just kind of like saying, hey, I'd rather be this, but if they pick somebody else, I
pick somebody else. That's all. It happens.
Yeah. Pick a card, any card. This card.
Yeah, especially this one.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've gotten off track, and I blame myself. Chess matches. Anyway.
2D chess matches.
Right. Tutti frutti.
She said a line there, though. Dax did say one line that I wrote down here that I was like, whoa. And she said, get your hands off me before I do something I regret.
Right.
Yeah, that was so aggressive.
Yeah, that was like, that's beyond words now. She's talking like physically threatening somebody.
Yeah, and that look she had, she's a very good actress. She had that really stern, like, whoa, I would get way far away from you right now. Look.
I kind of wanted Kira to match that level because, Kira can talk mess with the best of them. When she said, take your hands off me before I do something I regret, Kira should have said, that's right. You will regret it. And I would be like, it's on. Because usually the line is before I do something you'll regret. But she said, do something I'll regret. I'm like, it doesn't hold as much
a little
water.
bit of humanity there still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
you're right.
I actually think that Dax could have actually played this character more on the tough, edgy side, and it probably would have been more interesting to watch in the beginning of this, the first couple of seasons.
Yeah,
she is a little bit soft in the first couple of seasons, a little bit timid and soft, and not as aggressive or authoritative as she could be, as we see that in this episode that she has the potential to be. They could have wrote her a little bit more edgy and a little bit tougher, like kind of more on the masculine tough guy, I can kick somebody's ass type of girl. I would have bought it.
It was a male host that was taking over her personality.
The imagery with them, this is in your picture there, Ryan, too. The imagery with the mask was really interesting because it's somebody who is masked, right? Like that's the piece there. So that was kind of an interesting use of imagery there, because she'd see this person that's masked and it's like, well, I don't know who that is. It's like, well, you don't know who you are.
So you were okay with that?
I mean, I thought it was interesting in that sense.
I was a little 50-50 on it because I felt like at least give us an explanation as to why it's like that. But I guess maybe they figured we'd figure it out like what you did. Whereas me, I was just kind of like, that's Jack and Hagar or what? That's a Game of Thrones reference, the faceless man.
Yep.
I thought, I just wrote that down. I said, oh, she saw the faceless man. I forgot.
Maybe
I wasn't sure about the faceless man thing. I see how they kind of led us down the storyline to get to what Duran. This Duran person that was
what was his name?
Duran Balar.
Yeah, and his brother was Yolad Balar.
Yeah. So they kind of led us down there, and they threw these little scenes here with the Phantom of the Opera, and
true.
And then I don't know. I just got lost in it. It was a little bit difficult for me to follow. And it was just her acting out of place. And it's funny because I wrote an episode that never got aired and nothing happened of it, but I did write an episode.
Cool.
And I pitched it to the writers, and the episode was basically about Dax's character changing in the very way that it changes in this episode, where she becomes, violent and aggressive. But I had her change being the result of her being addicted to something that Quark puts in his drinks to get everybody to come and spend more money.
Oh, interesting. I like it.
Yeah, so that was my little storyline. When I pitched it to the writers, cool. they told me they couldn't use it because of the video game, everybody on Next Generation being addicted to the video game.
Right. It was similar to that, huh?
So it's kind of like, they did use something, not exactly that, but remember in Enterprise, T'Pol got addicted to that Trellium or whatever it was called.
That was kind of a rough episode too.
Yeah, it was
she
rough.
Falls down trying to. Yeah. I'm really curious about this story idea you had, though, Cirroc. Jake cool. Sisko, the writer.
Yeah, that's right.
Was there like a subplot that you can remember? Like, what was the B story?
Oh yeah, so the A and B story. The A story was Quark buying this stuff from some alien who's selling him these drugs to put in his drinks. He throws a party and gives away free drinks at the party, knowing that everybody's going to come back. And that kind of leads Odo to be suspicious of it. There's no way Quark's giving anything away for free.
Right.
And then a couple of people don't show up to the party, like Sisko, so he doesn't get affected. But the people that do show up, like Dax, gets addicted to the drink and then starts becoming, we see the same kind of things that we see with alcoholism or drug abuse, which is basically her losing herself and, diminishing and not being as polished and refined as somebody who's clean and sober, and she actually turns to like almost prostitution in my episode, right? Wow. Just to have the money to buy the drinks.
Did you ever think about making it into a book?
No, I didn't. I just wrote it as a script. But the other storyline was that Sisko and Jake get into a fallout. And Jake decides that he doesn't want to play baseball anymore because it's just,
boo.
that's his thing with his dad, and he wants to rebel. And so he's at the holodeck kind of griping to the baseball player about his dad and asking him. Well, I wrote it as Michael Jordan. And this was at the time when Jordan's left basketball and started playing baseball. Yeah. So in my Holosuite program, Jordan was a famous baseball player. And I'm talking with him and saying that I got in a fight with my dad and I want to play a new game. Is there any game that you'd recommend?
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Does he say basketball?
Yeah, he does say basketball. He's like, there's this other sport I used to play. And that would be the little joke. It would also be a chance to get Michael Jordan on an episode of this.
Yeah, right?
Oh, that would be so cool, dude.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah, that was the goal. And so I pitched the idea. I wrote it, pitched it, and had a good time with the writers. And, they gave me the time of day at least to sit down and listen and hear it out. And they eventually told me that, one, Michael Jordan would be impossible to get on the show. And the other thing was that this episode was kind of like the Next Generation episode where everybody was addicted to the video game. And
not terribly close, but yeah.
Oh, exactly.
So I hadn't seen that episode, the Next Generation one that they're talking about. So I didn't.
And it wasn't that good. Yours sounds better.
Reference.
And by the way, let's just go on record in saying that, of course, Star Trek would never recycle story ideas from series to series, right? Come on.
What was the third episode of Next Gen again? Wasn't it like the Naked Now?
Yeah, right. Yeah, same thing. I mean, it seems like every series. They have like episodes where you're like, oh, that's just like the episode in Deep Space Nine, Voyager does it or whatever.
Well, it's almost impossible to not have an overlap of some sort of a theme or an idea.
700 episodes.
Now the Orville is doing episodes that are similar to previous Star Trek episodes because they're kind of taking over that mantle.
But if you're going to deal with sexism or racism or any one of these topics, it's going to repeat itself at some point or another, even if it's written out a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally. It would have been cool though if they said, "Look, we can't afford Michael Jordan. There's no way." But Bo Jackson, Bo Jackson does a lot of different sports. Bo knows tennis.
I would have been good with Bo Jackson, to be honest with you.
Totally,
no complaints here. But the thing is, at the time, I asked Avery about this because Avery was good friends with Michael Jordan's dad.
Oh.
At the time when he was alive. And I was telling Avery, hey, I got this episode I wrote, I want to get Jordan involved. And he was like, yeah, I'll get Jordan. So when the writers were telling me Jordan's impossible, I'm like, no, Avery can get Jordan. I was like, Avery will get Jordan. They're like, we don't have the budget for it. I'm like, no, it could be done. I'm sure it could be done.
Let the emissary handle it.
Let the emissary handle it.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah. And I think there's been other athletes that have been on Star Trek, like James Worthy, right? He played a Klingon.
Right, James Worthy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, let's at least give it a shot.
Dwayne Johnson.
Right.
Yeah, and Paul White, the giant, was an Orion in Enterprise as well.
Yeah, the reason I thought Jordan would have liked it is because it was actually in the way it was written, made it look like Jordan was more famous as a baseball player.
Yeah, that's creative. I picked that up when you said that. That's really
and he was really trying to sell himself as a baseball player at that time, so he'd been like, "Yeah, I like that idea."
Yeah, exactly. So here we are in the future. We're looking back. He's more known as a baseball player from my perspective than as a basketball player. So that would have been like a little stroke on his ego that I thought he would have liked, and it would have, kind of given a little incentive.
So this was right around third, fourth season, probably like fourth season or something like that, right?
Right. I wonder where I have that script.
You should totally think about making it into a book. There's a lot of those books out there. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be a good little story.
As long as everything kind of goes back to how it was, towards the end, then it can fit right in, and it doesn't disturb canon in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I was just I looked at it as a challenge to write an episode, and at that time I had seen now at this point other actors were directing episodes, and so I was like, well, I don't think I'll have a chance to direct an episode because I'm only about 18 years old. So I doubt that they're going to be like, yeah, we'll give him the responsibility to run the show here. But I felt like I could write an episode. Totally. And since I was a writer already, and so I took my ideas and just made it. So really it was an accomplishment for me personally, just to see, can I do it? Set a goal for myself. Yeah. And I got it done. So,
and
it's awesome.
Big kudos to you for doing it, and big kudos to them for taking you seriously. I mean, most people would be like, 18-year-old, I mean, like, hey, I don't know. But they listened to you. They liked the idea. And you can tell that they really considered it because they gave you an actual legitimate reason why it wouldn't work. They didn't just say, okay, thanks very much. We'll think about it. We'll let you know.
Exactly.
They thought about it and they said, damn, that won't work because such and such. Whatever. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you did have a B plot, which I don't think this episode even had a B plot, did it? I mean, if there was one, I didn't
did
really
it have an A plot? No, I'm just
oh, man.
I'm just kidding. You're right. There was no B plot. Sometimes they do that in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. The last time I was on the show, there wasn't one for that one either.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I guess you're right about that.
I can't even think of like a secondary, angle on the A plot.
No,
this is all Dax basically.
Yeah, one thing Ryan and I were talking about earlier on too was it was really hard to figure out what actually happened. Like back with what was the guy's name again?
Duran.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Duran. That's what I wrote down.
Duran.
Hey.
So he clearly went into the training. He clearly was unstable. He clearly got the Dax symbiote. He probably killed this other person, but how did he get the Dax symbiote? I mean, there was another episode, I don't think it's come up yet, where somebody like basically steals the Dax symbiote and put it in, but it didn't sound like it was that. It sounded like he like somehow legit got it, but even though he was unstable, I guess.
Right.
And like, why did he kill this random professor? And how did they then kill him? And that's how they got it out? I mean, what?
Well,
there's a lot of sort of gaps there.
We're about to go to our first break right now. So let's talk about that when we get on the other side, because I think that's really the meat of what we want to talk about here is kind of like, fill in the blanks for us because we couldn't figure it out when we watched it. But we will be right back with Mohamed Noor on the 7th Rule.
Mirror Universe, Ryan Husk.